My name is Tuan, Senior Technologist from VMware. I'm with my colleagues, Rahul Dondetti. He's a Senior Consultant from Capgemini. Welcome, Rahul. Let's start with the session. You know, container has become very, very important topics in all of the conversations in VMware and all the events you see it. Why is so important? Before that, I get started with the disclaimer and go with the session. The talk is about 30 minutes. I'll set up the stage and do the introduction. Why and how we need container networking is so important today. Then we go with the deep dive into the Antrea and NSX Container Networking. We're going to compare between two solutions. Why do we need it? And Rahul is going to walk you through the demos. We're going to have two demos. First is about Antrea. We deep dive into that, investing low-level detail, and we show all the use cases. In this case, we're going to deploy one e-commerce app called Acme. And then we're going to see how we apply network policies allow blocking traffic. Then the second demo Rahul is going to walk you through is about vSphere with Tanzu, called the WCP, and using the NSX CNI plugin. Then, if we have time, we go more detail about the third demo about multi-cloud AWS and Azure, and also with some TKG on-prem demo. Let's start it. So the objective of the talk today is to give you the full value before you take it out of that. Is the whole value of Antrea, why we in SBU, we do Antrea, and what is the value of Antrea versus NSX-T, in which use case you should go with Antrea, which use case you should go with NSX Container Networking, we call it NCP, for your modern app. In recap, the three main objectives we want to highlight, to see either one of the two solutions we have. They both offer you a unique position that VMware come up with, which is a common platform for on-type workload. What I mean on-type workload could be bare metal, virtual machine, that you have it in the past with the vSphere, vCenters, now extended to container. So we do support on-type workload for that reason. And how we're gonna do easily to apply container networking plugin, allow you to enforce the policies, network and security policies via Antrea, and also for NSX Container Networking NCP. Then we see how we scale the architecture. Let's start it with the first objective. We see the traditional model. We have web, app, and DB. And we need to protect all of that on top of SCDC, software-defined data center, where VMware invented. So the traditional way, you put a firewall in every single app, VM or VNIC, and then we protect them. And we tag them via dev, or prod, web, app, or DB. This is traditional. It's running all the app running in the same data center with three-tier architecture, kind of. Now, the nature of the work, now we need to make it more agile, more flexible, and coming from the DevOps guy. The app become very, very fully distributed, and the workload can be virtual machine. Some we cannot containerize. Some with the nature of monolithics we cannot or will not yet containerize. They're still running a virtual machine, and some critical workload like telco or other critical workload we run at the bare metal, and they're fully distributed, not only in the same data center anymore, now expanded to multiple locations, completely agile. And it run all the way to the edge with the SD-WAN concept and the second branch, and then move to the cloud. More and more applications move to the cloud with a lot of benefits you can take from the cloud, but a lot of applications still running on-prem. And here we show two data centers, one could be active or active standby. Now the app is now fully distributed in multiple environment. How the network can evolve with that topology, not only for container, but on-type workload. And then, of course, when you expand into multiple environment, fully distributed, the increase of the attack is so going to be much more sophisticated, and it expose all the services that are running in the same data center and have a very good peripheral network. Now you expand to multiple environments, you need to protect them in a much more agile, much more difficult, right? And all the workload can be laterally moved from virtual machine to container to bare metal to multiple environment from the on-prem from the SCDC to the cloud. Because of that nature, we need to come up with a solution that help all of the DevOps system admin on-time personnel to address those challenges. Let's look at one simple example. You can deploy Kubernetes in a platform. It's all the blue color. Here in this example, you can bring one controller and 3 worker nodes. But in reality, in production, you can have multiple controllers for HA. And the worker node is where the real workload will be running. This is the nature of Kubernetes. And the master node, we have the keep API, control plan, scheduler. On the worker node, you see in here, we have kube proxies that allow you create, block, allow traffic, but very basic level. And Antrea coming, we bring on the green colors in here. The 2 things. First is the control plan, which is your Antrea controller. At the worker node, we install the agents. And the agent talk what the data plan is, in this case, OVS, that we fell in love. VMware invented via Nicira acquisition, and we build a tunnel between them. The advantage of that, we can take all the benefit of OVS that people knew for a long time. We can program very low level flow, but we go a little bit more detail into that in the next slide. But this is base level. Now we can go and deploy an app. What happened here? An app, in this case, you have web e-commerce app called Acme. It have the front end, and the front end and the catalog, which is showing on the catalog, which Rahul going to show you in demo. Now it's fully distributed. How you going to plumb them together and make sure you have the right policies, the right credential. Let's say front end can talk with catalog call, basement payment on the talk with the database, right? And then how you block traffic. I didn't want the attack coming from front end and go and land it directly in the database. It should go to the app, which is the catalog. In this case, it could be any type of app. How do you do that in the real world? So we have solution. This is the Antrea coming in about. And what is the value of Antrea? Antrea is a CNI plugin, allow you to do all the network plumbing and apply easily all the policies at the high level via all the control plan and data plan you just mentioned above. Let's start with the simple definition. So Antrea, this is a project Antrea that's VMware came up with, and then we donated to CNCF. That's the Antrea can run an on-type environment, could be on-prem, on AWS, Azure, IBM Cloud, on-type cloud, and we have GPU activated. And VMware come up with a solution with running on Tanzu, which is TKG, Tanzu Kubernetes Grid, and running on top of vSphere or any Linux or any other environment, we can run on top of it. Azure, AKS, EKS, you name it. Right? So this is the GitHub, this is the link. You're going to go and check it out. Now, Rahul is going to walk you through all of the details, how Antrea are working. This is the high level, that's very away from you. Antrea has a CNI plugin, which is Kubernetes is very flexible. It's got for on-type networking. So now, how we do that? Let's look at the first definition. What's the path? What the network connectivity? What the network policy? What the service? At the high level, on the Kubernetes working in the blah blah blah. Let's go with this one. And when you deploy an app, basically you deploy the app fully distributed and create multiple paths. This path can be one or multiple container. When the path talk with each other path, normally we don't talk directly, they talk via the service. The service, and here definition and abstraction, allow a representation of multiple paths. So let's see, it could be the east-west load balancer of multiple paths. The service allow to talk with different service. In this case, service front end talk with service catalog, talk with service payment, or any type of database services. And it create a connectivity between services. Just talking about layer 7. And then we need to apply the policy. You don't want any service talk with any services. Certain service can talk with certain service. Here in this case, we don't front end talk with the application, which is catalog. And you don't want front end go and talk directly with database. This is the example, right? how we do that? Very easy. A single click with Antrea, we can do it. And let's talk about that more detail. At the core level, Antrea running a daemon process in every single worker node. In this case, we just zoom in one worker node. You have Antrea agents, talk with Antrea controller. In this case, talk via the Kubernetes API. And then via that, we talk with controller. And then receive on the thing, right? Let's say you create an application, visit the Kubernetes API. You can try to place the workload, which is the front end or back end, whatever parts, into the worker node. In this case, let's see the front end being placed in at a part inside the worker node. And then from there, Antrea detected the need an IP address. That means you need the DNS, we are core DNS, you need an IP, and Antrea CNI plugin and do this kind of plumbing for you. And of course, you need to bring your own IPAM. We'll talk a bit later on. NSX coming with the NCP, those things automatically plugging. Here you need to add the services. You need to either you bring your own IPAM and DNS. They have core DNS already. You don't need to build it, but you want to relay with the external DNS, that you need to do your own relay. Where the NCP for NSX, everything auto plug, right? And then the pro and cons, right? Pro is everything ready for you. The cons, you have to build your own in this case, and you have gained the full flexibilities. I'm not going to go too much in detail. There are a lot of talks about it in YouTube, Antrea.io. This is here an example, fully open source, by the way. And then on top, we have the Octane UI. And later on, we're going to integrate with NSX. We'll talk a bit at the end of the talk, right? Zooming inside one node, the way it's worked in Antrea and other type CNI, the same concept. You create a path, they create a virtual unique a pair. The virtual unique one, they call it ETH0, it tie into your path. And the second one is the network net state running, and the bridge is a OBS bridge is in this case because it's running Antrea. And then they create a tunnel. If you go for different hosts, you use a tunnel. In this case, we use Geneva tunnel or VXM tunnel, depends on the version you're running. So the new version running on Geneva, and that gives you the full flexibility. You can talk with different hosts. So when you go out, you're basically SNAT, the salt NAT, and that in Kubernetes by default, we deal with Flannel, and they basically use kubeproxy, and kubeproxy running inside. Here is different process running to go and program your IP table. In this case, Antrea coming, we enhance it, we use OBS, and then we have SNAT and DNAT running inside the virtual bridge. And that enhances a lot of performance. And how we do that? We use IPVS combined with IP table, and then we make some enhancement, and we catching everything, and then we make it faster. For the first time, you don't see much faster. For the second time, with traffic coming, they know and they register via contract and all the services in IPVS and allow you enhance the performance. And then here there's some reason why we go with Antrea. So we have full partnership with Intel in this project. So Intel can provide us joint performance. So here there's one example. We deploy that with Intel. We enhance the performance, and we get up some good numbers. So here is the how much TCP stream. You can see that basically with compare with IP table, way more faster than with Antrea. We see that then the dark blue is kubeproxy, and the blue one is no services, and then the light blue is Antrea. More or less, you gain the same performance like you don't run bot communications without any CNI, right? And then there's some level, and the beauty of Antrea is conversion time is very constant, despite how much traffic you can have. In this case, we got 1,000 or 2,000 or 4,000. No matter the performance degradations, and this despite you double or triple number of network policies. And Rahul gonna walk you through some basic sample about that. And that's all the throughput. And the almost throughput remains constant despite an increasing number of policies. In this case, include about 4,000 network policy. You almost get perfectly, right? And for TCP performance, Antrea show constantly requests this file number increase the set of network policy. That's what this means to predictable rate of large small cluster. You almost get exactly the same performance. We go check it out and download performance. Now Rahul going to walk you through our 3 demos for Antrea. First, we go through how you build an app very quickly, easily, and how you set up, install Antrea, just one single YAML file. And that's the first demo. Second demo, we walk you through how you apply the network policies. In this case, you allow a block in traffic between different services, not different parts, but services. There's a front end can talk with catalog. And the third demo, we have a very nice beauty before I jump to Rahul. This is a unique position we have in network policy. You need to define multiple tiers, which is the ops team have a higher priorities, and security team and emergency is going to hire. So we create multiple tiers. The same you saw in NSX, we do exactly the same. And here, the beauty of that, later on, we can integrate it with NSX, with it coming very soon in the next release. And I have a beta demo. We can show that, how it looks in the prototype. You can see. And here, Rahul gonna do the demo. Let's start with that, okay? And then you see at the end, the beauty of Antrea not only allow you easily to install, set up the CNI plugin, but they have multi-tier policy. But later on, you're gonna integrate with the service mesh. We have a product called Tanzu Service Mesh and Tanzu Mission Control. You can allow the operator, the app operator can see the visibility end to end, and then also can tie the policy directly to that and detect all the tags. And now it's not a roadmap anymore. This is coming in the next release very shortly. Then Antrea can tie with NSX. That's coming in the next release as well. I can run a prototype and let's work with that. And Rahul, it's yours. Here, the demo, here, the topology, and you deploy an app and you allow. In this case, front end cannot talk with catalog or vice versa. You see how the demo looks like. And then let's start with the demo. Thanks, Rahul. You just saw a very nice demo about Antrea.
Let's have a look at this environment for this Antrea demo. We have 4-node cluster running on Ubuntu Linux, 1 master node and other 3 being the worker nodes. The Antrea is already deployed in the cluster and all the Antrea pods are up and running. Let's have a look at Antrea pods in the kube system namespace. So we can see that there are 4 Antrea agents and 1 Antrea controller being run in this cluster right now. So this cluster is completely ready, and all the pods are up and running on the kube system namespace. So we can deploy a sample application to get the demo of an policy enforcement on the cluster, which would allow us to drop the traffic between the pods which either running in the same namespace or the pods which are communicating with multiple namespaces. So right now in this demo, let me deploy a sample Acme application and enforce a policy to block the traffic between 2 pods running in the same namespace. So let's look at the namespaces created in this Kubernetes cluster. So for this, for deploying a sample app, let me create a namespace called Acme. We will deploy the application within this namespace and try to block the traffic between 2 pods. See the traffic being blocked within the pods real time by accessing the Acme application from the browser. So the Acme namespace has been created. Allow me to deploy the Acme application. So this Acme application contains 10 microservices, which would all together form an Acme Fitness web application. So as we can see, all the pods are deployed successfully. Let's have a look at Acme namespace, what all the pods and services running within the namespace. Kubectl get all -n Acme would give us all the information about the services running in the Acme and namespace. We can look at the pods which are all running, all are in running state, and the services which are being deployed here. So let's have a look at this application within the browser by accessing this TCP port number in a browser. So this application is using node port. We would be able to access the application within this by using this port with the node IP. So yeah, there's an IP error here. Let me correct the node IP. It's 145. So we can see that Acme application is completely accessible. This is the landing page. If we access the catalog, the application would display the catalog items, the list of products which are in the catalog. So we can access the catalog page also, and the products are being listed within the catalog page. Let's go back to our K-test cluster and see, block the traffic between and let's see to block the traffic between the shopping and the catalog services, so that we would be able to access the application but not the catalog service within the app. So we would be blocking. Let's have a look at these pods. We would be dropping the traffic between the front end pod and the catalog pod, which would allow us to drop the traffic between and enforce a network policy between the pods running within the namespace. Let's deploy the network policy. Let me deploy the network policy here in this cluster. So we can see the policy has been successfully created. Let's go back to our application and see the status of the application, whether the traffic is being dropped between our shopping front end and the catalog page. If this has been working, we would not be able to access the catalog products within the shopping page. If we can see, the catalog products is empty. When I try to click on the catalog, it plainly displays me a empty page. So this is evident that the traffic is being dropped between the shopping and the catalog pod, so that we are not able to access the products which are there under the catalog service. Let's go back and delete this existing network policy and try to check the status of working status of the Acme application. I would delete this network policy right away and see whether we are able to get back to our catalog service within the Acme app. So the service policy has been deleted right now. Let's go back to the app and refresh the page. Yeah, so we are able to see the products right away. The traffic now being allowed once the policy has been deleted. So once the policy is enforced, the communication between the shopping pod and the catalog pod has been dropped by the network policy which we have been using. And now once the policy being deleted, we are able to get back to our product page. As part of this demo, let me navigate you to our vSphere cluster where we have a WCP deployed. WCP cluster on a vSphere environment is a K8s cluster to deliver infra and application services as part of one platform. So the workload management cluster would allow us to use the capabilities of Kubernetes within the vSphere cluster. So here the network services are being offered by our NSX-T. Let me refresh this page so that we can navigate to the workload management. Yeah. So we can see the workload management cluster here, which is part of our vSphere environment. This WCP is deployed and managed within the vSphere itself, which would allow us to manage and operate the Kubernetes services and namespaces within the vSphere UI. Let me take you to a supervisor cluster plane, which is a management cluster. So this supervisor cluster, after we enable this on a vSphere environment, it would allow us to manage and monitor the cluster by using the vSphere UI. There are 3 supervisor cluster planes, which would allow us to manage our pod environment similar to native Kubernetes cluster. This control plane would act as a control plane would act as the controller for our controlling our pods and other namespaces. The workloads are being deployed within our ESXi nodes, which would act as a typical worker nodes as in our Kubernetes cluster. So let me take you to the namespace, how it can be deployed as similar to our Kubernetes cluster. We have an ACME namespace, which is a similar app which has been deployed. Right.
Now, let's go with the next demo, the next step. So this is the high level. You just saw Praveen deploy an app and 3 different nodes, in node 1, node 2, and node 3, and run on top of VCN. Then Antrea or expand. The beauty of that is not only install the CNI plugin in Antrea and apply policies. Of course, we have a lot of value on that. But the beauty is that you plug into the entire ecosystem of Tanzu, which is invented by VMware. And here in this case, we plug into Tanzu Service Mesh, allow you to create the data. You do traffic routings. And because of the Service Mesh, the nature of that, they have a cycle. And then we can control everything from north-south or east-west traffic. And we can hook it with our advanced load balancer, in this case, NSX advanced load balancer, allow you to route traffic between different clusters, even eventually at the global level, which is using the GSLB. Those are the beauty of that uniquely in VMware Antrea, and that's the benefit you have. But last but not least, you don't want to just run everything in the container. With some application in legacy or and managed by NSX or non-type of SDS solution. How do you do that? So we have solution for that. So on the left side, you see all the value of NSX can bring from layer 2, layer 3, routing, switching, layer 4, layer 7. And we're gonna talk about the NCP and how Antrea can join this community together for a better solution end to end. Let's start with the left side, okay? And the left side, you see that where we come up with container, you see definitely NSX is the top one, number 1 on the market about the software-defined data center for networking. But the nature of the work right now, you expand to the container, not only virtual machine. You see the workload almost double, 99% every year. And they predicted by the end of this year, 2021, 1.8 million deployed container worldwide. Compare with the last 2 years ago, 5 times more, almost double or triple every year. And we look at all the use cases and let's come up why NSX NCP container is so important. The top challenge for adopting modern app is storage, networking, and security. In this talk, we don't talk about network storage. There are our colleagues from Tanzu going to talk more about that. But for networking and routing, switching, security. What does it mean exactly? It's challenge how to deploy the virtual router, virtual firewall, or virtual load balancer, whatever, in formal and app. Because you build a network, you don't have the network plumbing, you cannot do anything. When the network plumbing working, you need the policy, allow, control everything. And then you need to load balance in between them. Not only east, west, now it's north, south, correct? Now, and then you have to tie with all the type of workloads from bare metal, container, and virtual machine together, and it create an inconsistency networking across multiple environments. I'm talking about single SDC. Now you move the same workload to the cloud and to the edges. The inconsistency networking for clarity become more critical. And how you automate all of that. NSX NCP that bring on the values. You see, for folks don't have NSX, and that's Antrea maybe a good fit to start with. Folks only have an NSX with virtual machine or bare metal running. Now you extend it in one single click or a few clicks, you can extend it to the NSX for supporting container. See how it works. Before I go that, it's all the challenge you have. Not only that, right? Inconsistency security across some workload and bare metals. On the left is the bare container. On the right is virtual machine. How you talk, let them talk, allow blocking traffic. How you see the full visibility. How you do microsec. Granular security across the workload. Workload could be half container, half virtual machine. That's in extreme, right? You cannot containerize the whole app. Let's say you containerize half of the app. How you allow block traffic. And then you create a cross-platform connectivity difference. Data center from on-prem to the cloud, virtual machine to container to bare metal in this case. How you do that? NSX NCP is a solution for that. And it provides the advanced container networking and routings. You tie with all the tier 1, tier 0, you know exactly in the NSX world. Now you tie that every time you create a new namespace. In the case of Heptio, PKS, Tanzu, Kubernetes, create a new name, right? How you tie that every time you create a new namespace, basically, NSX, if it's there, it auto plumb, it create a network plumbing, which is the virtual router, and apply the right policy for the right workload, and the DevOps, right? And then you have everything ready to run. NSX-T bring the order value for you. Of course, in the case of Antrea, it's open source. You can also do that, but you have to manage manually. You have to create your own virtual router or physical routers, and you tie together. But here is AutoPlumb. Easy, one size fits all. You run across multiple environments. In the cloud, we have VMware on AWS or NSX running in the cloud. On-prem, we have NSX, right? And then not only that, when you tie together, it could be Antrea or NSX and run the entire workload and run entire Tanzu OpenShift. We have a lot of customers running in production with Tanzu, and we talk OpenShift, EKS or AKS. That's bring all the values. It had a backing built-in IPAM. We have advanced load balancer with AVI, or we use NSX as a load balancer as well. So depending on the use case, we have the full visibility with the Verni and network inside. And we have the full segmentation use cases backing in the virtual machine or and containers. And that's all kind of value you bring in. So in this case, you see that that's in the case of NSX container networking. So we create a namespace, basically create a tier 1, and the tier 1 tie with a tier 0 and route to the outside world. And then in the case of Antrea, you have to go and build your own. And that's you have the flat network. Here, fully segmented, fully isolated. And here, one branch going to virtual machine or bare metal, one branch going to running and DKGI, or one branch going to all the products. So VMware, all the vendors is fully integrated with all the type of workload. And NSX offer all the advanced capabilities. So you ask me how we going to do the Antrea. Yes, in the next release, I'm going to join that, and then you can have the full visibilities. Of course, you need to have the license for NSX to do this kind of work, but you can start with small one in Antrea in different places and play with that in development environment, even we show you in the production. Now, if you have the need to connect them together, NSX is the right choice, right? And then not only that, they can try with on kind of work. Go ahead and Rahul, let's see the demo, and we see how NSX and CP running inside vSphere. We call it vSphere for Tanzu. And the product name to tie networking called the WCP workload control manage. Let's go.
As part of this demo, let me navigate you to our vSphere cluster where we have a WCP deployed. WCP cluster on a vSphere environment is a K8s cluster to deliver infra and application services as part of one platform. So the workload management cluster would allow us to use the capabilities of Kubernetes within the vSphere cluster. So here the network services are being offered by our NSX-T. Let me refresh this page so that we can navigate to the workload management. Yeah. So we can see the workload management cluster here, which is part of our vSphere environment. This WCP is deployed and managed within the vSphere itself, which would allow us to manage and operate the Kubernetes services and namespaces within the vSphere UI. Let me take you to a supervisor cluster plane, which is a management cluster. So this supervisor cluster, after we enable this on a vSphere environment, it would allow us to manage and monitor the cluster by using the vSphere UI. There are 3 supervisor cluster planes which would allow us to manage our pod environment similar to native Kubernetes cluster. This control plane would act as a control plane would act as the controller for our controlling our pods and other namespaces. The workloads are being deployed within our ESXi nodes, which would act as a typical worker nodes as in our Kubernetes cluster. So let me take you to the namespace, how it can be deployed as similar to our Kubernetes cluster. We have an ACME namespace, which is a similar app which has been deployed right in previous demo in our native Kubernetes.
You just saw the nice demo about 2 things, right? First demo about Antrea. Second demo is NSX and CP. Tie them together and then can run the workload. Run the cloud. Antrea is the right fit to run in native AWS or Azure, or eventually on any retail telco at the edges. And together, and NSX can run NCP if you do need a lot of advanced capabilities. Now, Antrea coming in and tie on together as well. So complete the end-to-end solutions. And then how you scale out? That's the question here. Yeah, I want to deploy that small. We want to make sure you can scale. And now with NCP, how to scale out? So you deploy in pod and host, and then you plug in direct NSX with the tier 1, and then go tier 0 and the routing to east, west, or north, south. That's how you scale in NSX and CP. Antrea is different, right? Slightly different, not that much. So you can run it. NSX can control the green box with the virtual machine. Inside you have a Kubernetes cluster. You have multiple hosts. Antrea running on that. And now you need to talk between a different cluster. Antrea can plug into NSX in the route traffic between them, right? If you need only one single cluster, you might not need that. They just no need NSX. But now you have the connectivity between different Antrea cluster. NSX is the right network fabric to do all the plumbing. Eventually, you can go outside of the NSX fabric. All the type fabric could be any type fabric. Antrea can be running on-prem on top of other environment or in the cloud, AWS, EKS, or IKS with Azure. And then NSX will be managed the policy or distributed across multiple environment, right? So that's the where we at. So then you can see how it scale, and after that look the recap. When you saw a lot of think is about the demo Antrea running a single cluster or multiple cluster. And underneath you have network private NSX running on-prem or AWS or Azure. It becomes the admin op for network security policy across multiple environment. And then it orchestrates on-time workload, bare metal virtual machine, and the WCP. You saw that it's running a supervisor cluster, which is the NSX backing. So all the value you have basically give me a single platform across virtual machine, container, and bare metal. First. Second is the natively running you see the whole demo with network security consistently across multiple environments. It's completely scalable to distributed app running either on-prem or data center or at the edge. And again, the full stack layer 2 all the way to layer 7. We talk with layer 2, layer 3, that's the Antrea CNI plugin. And then in layer 4, we have in the case of NSX, we have the load balancer built in. In the case of Antrea, you can bring NSX Advanced Load Balancer, which he formerly named Heavy. And then on top of that, you have layer 7, which is Tanzu Service Mesh. Running is on top of that, you can have the full visibility or NSX Federation, the federate on-time workload together. And then Antrea have the blocking. And that's the last slide. That's the full VMware modern app portfolio. We see that how you can run on-time workload. And then Antrea is the core. Underneath you have NSX running. On the right side, all the security features we're offering and analytics with Bernie. On top, you have Service Mesh, load balancer, which is mentioned. And on top, we can create a multi-cloud solution with the GSLV and define the global namespace, allow you expand the fabric to multiple cloud. Just one single click, you can put it visibility and traffic routing across multiple environments. It's not part of the talk today, but you can see it. And when you see it, a lot of session, have a look, check it out. And last slide, I want to take away with when I should choose Antrea, when I should choose NSX and CP. They're not really a winner on this stage, depends on the use case you need. So in this case, if you need what Kubernetes network policy, Bob supported. So Bob natively support a network policy from NSX. But Antrea moved a step further, but extend it with the multi-tier policies. Now later I join NSX, that becomes exactly the same, right? And then the security scope using NSX-T, and then here in it's got to have the isolated scale domain. So outside one scale, you know federation concept, but NSX you do have it. And the enforcement is the micro-segmentation. That's the number one use case in NSX, by the way, the micro-segmentation on-time hypervisor. We support it, right? And here on the other side, you need to nested or OVS running on top. So you enforce via OVS. OVS directly talk with the host level and hypervisor and go out, right? Then the certain thing like CRD does not support an NSX, and then the IPAM NSX built in. Here you have to bring your own IPAM. If you have RV AKO, they bring it in. If you can bring other open source, Metal LB, or in the case of AKS or EKS, they have the built-in IPAM solutions and from the cloud provider. Then on the case of NSX, we use Geneva, and there we can use Geneva, definitely, but depends on the version, we can support on time. You can turn up flexibilities, but in terms of advanced features, NSX and CP, I would say a lot of more features. Now with two products gonna tie together, Antrea gonna be part of NSX coming soon. So look at the third demo, here's a prototype, and it gives me all the visibilities. Antrea now joining NSX and take the full benefit of all the NSX features. Of course, you need a license for NSX in order to inject Antrea or connect Antrea to the NSX ecosystem. And now in the case of, you look at it, there's so many use cases in here. Now, last is the three key takeaway after the talk. We saw three demo. First, see all the value in Antrea, provide a full networking and enforce network security easily in one single click, and how you create multi-tiers policies. And the second demo, you saw the NSX provide the full, and in this case, NSX-T provide the full integrated networking and security for virtual machine, bare metal, and container. And the third one, you see in the middle of the demo, we show that the WCP vSphere with Tanzu NSX provide the full stack for on-time workload. And check it out on the tie-up why we need Antrea, why we need NCP. Those are great articles I collected, and have a look. Antrea offer multi-tier policy, and all the best practices are easy to use, and there are a ton of blogs, and how easy to do the operations, scaling, all the performance number. We saw that. You get tremendous value. It's just a starting point today, and they have more and more features coming along the line. And then we support on-time and multi-cloud as well. And you have it at the edges as well, and run on Linux and Windows, and a better integration with the whole ecosystem on layer 2 or layer 7. In this case, the ALB, layer 4, layer 7 load balancer, running Tanzu Service Mesh, the full ecosystem of Tanzu, supported by Antrea, and it's extendable. It's really extendable, and then now it's attached to NSX, even more extendable. A ton of features coming along with it. We are in a unique position. You look at Antrea at this point, we are in a unique position, can offer on the market. Now, along with NSX NCP, is a completely professional one that's way more advanced than other container plugin. And hope to talk and I help you. It's more sessions. You look at all the simuli, we talked a lot. I'm part of the team to demonstrate those demos for different folks here. But check out Demo Zone. We have 2 great demos, one for Antrea security, how we secure the apps, and one for the app networking. See how Antrea go along with ALB and TSM. And they have 2 record sessions with Ray, and Ray highly recommend to check it out. One from Madhu, my colleagues, Antrea, and running on a woodchip. And the one vSphere for Tanzu with on NSX capabilities. And first one, before you leave it, there's a link you go and download and grab the new ebook I just published with my colleagues from the NSPU. Hope the talk and give the full visibility why we do Antrea, why we do NSX NCP, why together for a better solution. Thank you very much. Please fill out the survey. Give a great talk for us. Thank you very much for